noticed that I had a missed call, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is from 3 Arts. What's gonna happen?
It was Esther, and I was like, okay, let me call her right now.
And I thought, she's calling to tell me personally I didn't get it.
I said, maybe she'll say you got an honorable mention.
This might be a great thing, or I don't know, maybe they have a question.
The only reason why an executive director would call me is if I won something or there was a problem with my application.
When she was like, I have good news, I just started crying.
My stomach dropped.
I did not expect it.
Made me kind of choke up and almost start to cry.
I had to pull the car over and take it in.
Trying really hard not to scream because there were like kids in the next room.
Just kept saying, because I think I was still processing.
I am pretty sure that this is happening right now, but I can't really believe it.
It took a while to sink in.
And it still feels like, not sure, we're here doing the videotape, so it must be true.
To receive such a great honor was kind of a numb feeling.
I feel that it's a culmination of a lifetime.
It was extremely meaningful.
I felt really honored. I felt really humbled.
It was really incredible.
It was amazing. I'm Alejandro Acierto, and I'm an artist and musician. A lot of the work that I make recognizes my history as a musician by being focused on the breath. The breath for me is a way to understand presence. For those of us who feel like we don't have the agency to speak or the ability to speak, or maybe we don't speak in the same language, I like to think about the breath as a way to remember that we can always still be here. There's a couple of different ways that I'm sort of tackling the breath. One branch of this is to really think about archives. I want to remake the history that I've learned. Part of the work that I do with archives has to deal with re-imaging myself and my ancestors who've been subjected to all of this injustice, to see if there are openings that we can pry open a little bit more to sort of like let that light shine through. And then the other chunk is this sort of literalizing the breath in large objects. I like to make work that allows me to imagine what it would be like to not be historically marginalized. For me, it becomes a really important tool that allows me to imagine what it could be like otherwise.
Teresa Evan, experimental video documentary maker. I work with video, single channel video to installation and sometimes interactive video. So it's video that meets digital and is kind of fractured by it. It's always documentary at the base, but the term documentary is one that I try to complicate. The digital tool is, I think, what made video work for me. Those very little detailed shifts in the image that you're never sure if they're actually happening, that was really where it all fell into place for me. And that's where it begins to drift towards fiction. Instead of looking at the state of things with very broad strokes, I'm going for the most personal story.
When you're real young, you don't think in terms of life and death, you know?
Describing the humanity of other people is what I feel like I'm doing in my documentaries. Not so much issues as much as people, because I feel like that's how issues could be resolved if you see the person behind the compartment.
The middle child. I have a brother that's 8 years older.
And thinking formally about these things and thinking with a fresh medium, all of that is what I get up in the morning for.
Ariel Frost, and I'm a musician. The main thing that I do is I make music with awesome kids. I run an after-school youth orchestra program called Shift Englewood. 2/3 of every concert that we play is music that we have written ourselves. One of the amazing things about that is like a student with basically no experience on the violin has musical ideas and they're able to express those even if all they can do is play open strings. I had a student who said that their day was boring and they just played one, like their lowest open string really, really long and soft. And that was like their third time holding a violin. Music helps them realize that no matter how young they are or how inexperienced they are, that their feelings matter and that they can find a way to express them to someone. I have so many students that are being told constantly that, where they're from or what their families look like are not what success looks like. And I think it's really important that they realize that success looks like whatever they want it to look like.
Mabel Kwan, pianist. I did not ask to play the piano, but eventually, once I started to hear all the things that it could do, I started to really like keyboard instruments. If you come hear me play the piano, it might sound like what you picture or it might not. In addition to taking lessons, my dad would take me to a lot of classical live performances. So a thing that I think a lot about is the concert format. It needs a sense of play and tension. What I'm looking for is sort of a balance between the two. I think art is about progress, so we have to keep trying new things. It's very valuable to go back and listen to the Beethoven bagatelles and to, practice Bach and play Mozart, but if you're going to have progress, you have to keep trying new things, and it has to be in the context of the time that you're living in and with the people around you. I think that's why I play new music.
Ginger Lane. I'm a dancer, choreographer, teacher, mother, grandmother, anything you can think of. I'm it. I was always a kid who liked to move. I lost my mother at a very young age. I was only 3 when she was sent to Auschwitz. I perhaps used movement and dance as an escape. I see dance as both an internal way of comforting and not feeling so alone, and then expressing to the world that it doesn't matter. I can make the best of a bad situation through movement. Physically integrated dance doesn't have the traditional thinking that dance was only for that perfect body. The whole basis of dance is to express yourself and to communicate. Creating dance for someone who has never thought that dance was a part of their life, I think it helps to free them, to see that there aren't limits. It's also very eye-opening for the professional dancers to work with dancers who have disabilities. There are possibilities they have not explored before. There are no expectations. There's only movement and beauty, and however you define beauty.
My name is Will Liverman, and I'm an opera singer. I grew up with a very strong gospel background, and my parents got me started in piano at an early age. Gotta find a handful of bucks somewhere, gotta shine my shoes and slick my hair. The first opera that I saw, it was really quite meaningful for me. I mean, to be honest, okay, I dozed off like through most of it. But I woke up when I heard the Ride of the Valkyries theme, that dun bum ba dun dun bum bum ba dun dun. And it was sort of cool because I had grown up like thinking that that was always from a cartoon. And my teacher's like, no, silly, the opera came first. And I was like, wait a minute, the cartoon stole this from the opera? Like, how cool is that? I remember back when my hair was longer and I had cornrows. There was this record store in this mall, and the manager would have me followed around by like one of the employees to make sure that I like wasn't gonna steal anything. All the while, here I am, this kid that just wanted to like look through the classical section. The arts is something that can really bring people together. And it's one of the reasons I think why I still strive to be different and to say yes, you know, here I am. I love rap, I love R&B, but hey, I'm an opera singer. It's cool for me to say that to someone. I want to be just a different type of example that just says, don't be closed off of the possibilities that you have.
Tara Mallon, actor, director, producer, theater maker. I moved here as a 20-something-year-old actress, and I became really aware of how few opportunities there were for women in the theater world. That's why I started Rivendell. I wanted to make sure that I was working on productions that were meaningful and not some cookie-cutter role, but I also really wanted to make sure that other women had the chance to work. If you don't have the opportunity to work, how do you get good?
Looking hot! Give me some of that lip gloss. Are you leaving again? When should I run errands, Lucia? Between jobs or after I dance with the prince at the ball?
I've gotten very intentional about the community engagement opportunities and whose voice I'm giving a stage to. About 6 years ago, I got very involved in working with female veterans. I'd been invited to direct something, and they said, can you find a play for 10 girls? I'm like, nobody writes plays for 10 women. We created a play around interviews of women coming back from Iraq. We ended up interviewing about 75 women, and this was a play that we made called Women at War.
He looks at me and he says, the Marine Corps is no place for a girl. So I looked at him and I said, well, that's okay, because I recently became a woman.
And it was like this eye-opening adventure into this entire community of women who are literally silent. I think to offer that opportunity for those women to see themselves reflected on stage.
This woman just asked me, how could you leave your child like that?
It really made me understand the power of story and the power of acknowledging a voice that has been silenced, and really informed the kind of work I want to be doing from this point forward.
I'm Meida McNeal. I'm a performance maker, educator, and arts administrator. I make collaborative, multidisciplinary performance works that are ethnographic and sociological. I work collaboratively with a group of other performance makers. We typically take about a year to gestate a new work. Let's go. There's always some kind of community engaged portion of the process to develop material. And then we take all of that material and then shape that into the work. I've always been really concerned with communities and with people gathering in groups to think about things. As a person of color, I feel an obligation to help make visible all of the richness that is in those communities that a lot of people don't see. For me, I think collaboration is about something more than just the act of like making stuff with people together. Like, it's teaching you to live better with people, which is something I think we all need. And we need to constantly practice that.
Marcela Muñoz, actor-director. I do theater, in Espanol mostly. It's just a part of me. So I'm thinking in English, I'm thinking in Spanish, I go back and forth. There is really no difference for me. It's just part of my identity as a Latinx artist and as Latinx, period. I love that energy of working with other actors, working with other artists, and showing their talent, directing them and fitting them into a particular vision, and then to put it out in front of an audience and get their response. One of the most beautiful experiences that I've had is when people come to me after the show and they say, I understood it. And what they mean is they understood it in their skin. Theater absolutely is a universal language. And especially nowadays when there's so much of a question of what is America and who are Americans and what is the language of America. And I don't think there is one particular language. We can speak all of them. They all fit in here. You can just look at someone, hear the way they are speaking, hear their voice, the way it sounds, and not necessarily understand what it is that they're saying, but you understand what it is that they're feeling. That is what art is to me, is the fact that all of these voices are important. All of these voices should be represented and should see themselves reflected. And their experiences are the experiences that make up this whole of who we all are.
Juan Perez, interdisciplinary artist and visual arts instructor. For the past 15 years, I've been working with disenfranchised communities that lack the resources to bring in the arts into that environment. When I come in to work with schools, no one project's ever the same. For example, in La Promesa de Libertad, Liberty's Promise, the majority of the student population happen to be immigrants. It's very intense in the school because of what was happening in the political arena. We're getting outbursts of crying and a lot of questions. Why do they hate us? What did we do wrong? When you come to a place where it is promoted that you're accepted here and then all of a sudden you're being targeted, it's a lot to take in for me as an adult. I can only imagine for a child. They're first and second grade. As for myself, I came to this country as an immigrant, and I remember being in their situation. So I figured this would be a great opportunity to give them the platform and give them a voice. They create these beautiful paintings, their interpretations of immigration, and we put them out the hallway to display, and they began to invite their parents. So next thing you know, we had all of our students' parents coming in and taking photographs, with their response. And then they began teaching it to other students. And next, we had hundreds of families from the school and from the community coming in. And that created this dialogue to connect. I really want children to grow up knowing that they can ask questions. These are essential to figure out who you are. And that is a power that no one can take away from you. Chicago, it's a place that's welcomed me. It's a place that's kicked my ass. You have to earn your way through this city.
Looking back on it, I've really felt like I've grown a lot here.
There are so many wonderful things about every corner of Chicago.
The art scene here is incredible.
The reason people survive here is because they know how to come together.
It's a city where people are collaborating a lot.
We encourage each other. We support each other.
I love this city.
I love this city.
It's a city that you grow to love. And when you grow to love, that's forever.
The 3 Arts Award is acknowledgement, acceptance, an opportunity to continue to grow.
The 3 Arts Award recognizes a whole field of people who are working within arts and cultural production that may not always get the recognition they deserve. We're in an interesting time where 3 Arts has already been doing the work, and I think some of the world is beginning to catch up.
Art brings people together in a way that not a whole lot of other things do.
There is an effort to stomp down on the tremendous variety of humanity that exists in this country and in this world, and we can't let that happen.
I really want to commit myself and my resources to making America be the kind of country I want my daughter to grow up in.
Everything that I believe in is under attack these days. Our role is to protect cultural output.
Making art today is a critical part of that effort because it's our way of speaking truth to power.
Thank you.